Today we're making lo mein. Lo mein, chow mein. Lo mein just means like a saucy noodle. Chow mein is like a fried noodle. They're all Cantonese dishes and they use Cantonese noodles. This was a pack of 10 perfectly portioned noodles for $3. That's even on the high end. And so each serving is going to work out to 30 cents, obviously. Now, even when we factor in the vegetables and the staple pantry items that we have to use for this, it's going to cost way less than $1. Now, you can absolutely use meat in this, like chicken, but I'm not. I'm making it vegetarian because I've already allotted 2 egg rolls per person, plus I made a chicken appetizer. Ingredients: we need cornstarch, we need a Chinese soy sauce, sweet soy sauce, oyster sauce, rice vinegar, some kind of sugar. Probably brown sugar is preferable, but I don't have enough of that if I still want to make my brown sugar cookies later. So you can use white sugar. You can also I'm using jaggery powder, black pepper. I do recommend that you use a grinder. The cheapest brand of grinder is the Delesi, which I've seen at Olive Garden. We also have flaked crushed red pepper. I have salt here. I'm probably not going to need to use the salt, but we're just going to keep it to taste just in case. The great part about cooking for yourself at home is that you get to control how much salt, sugar, and oil goes into your food. Restaurants that run on very low profit margins and depend on volume, and that would be most Chinese restaurants in the United States and Western countries, they depend very heavily on salt, sugar, and oil to cover up the fact that they're not using the best quality ingredients. It's more expensive and it affects their profit margin. They got to make money too. But since you're cooking at home, you don't need to worry about a profit margin. So all that you need to do is just cook quality ingredients, and the best part of that is you don't need to dump a ton of salt and sugar and fat into things when they're already good. They're going to taste good. All right, on to our aromatics: ginger paste, minced garlic, and onion. I used an entire white onion here. And then for our vegetables, carrot. Now, broccoli is not traditional, but I did chop it up really fine. I need to use it up. It's the last bit of broccoli that I have. And then I have red and green bell pepper. Whenever you're cooking noodles, you should think about shapes that complement the noodle. So for example, like here I have strips of carrot, I have strips of pepper. You wouldn't want to, say, cube your vegetables because it's just not gonna be as easy to eat. Next, notice how I've plated these things for my prep. Things that are going to go in at about the same time, you want to, keep them together. So our aromatics are going to go in first. Our ginger, garlic, and our onion, those will go in first. The carrot is something that's like hard and dense. It's going to take a little bit more time to cook. So that'll go in almost at the same time. And then this plate will all go in last because these don't need much time at all to cook. And we don't want them to be truly cooked. Well, at least I don't. I like them to be still a little bit firm to the bite, and they'll also have more nutrition in them that way. Okay, we got a pot of water boiling. We will use 4 servings of this. The vegetables that we have is going to be enough for 4 servings, and that way we can have this for lunch 2 days in a row, and I can have 1 day where I don't spend the morning in the kitchen. With very few exceptions, you should almost never add oil to your boiling noodle or pasta water. That's just because it's going to coat the noodle or the pasta, and it's going to prevent any sauce that you create from sticking. And speaking of sauce, let's make our sauce. Okay, first I'm going to put in some soy sauce. I honestly don't know how much I put in there. I mean, this is just kind of an eyeballing thing. You're not going to do it wrong, but I would say try to aim for about half of the sweet soy sauce as the regular soy sauce that you use. Oyster sauce is quite salty. You really only need maybe half a teaspoon. Probably used about a teaspoon of cornstarch. Okay, I'm going to put in like, I don't know, teaspoon and a half of rice wine vinegar. Probably like a teaspoon and a half of sugar. I probably used about a teaspoon each of ground black pepper and then the red pepper flakes. You don't have to use that much red pepper flakes if you don't want to, but I need a little bit of heat. So I'm going to mix that sauce up together. Meanwhile, my noodles only take about 3 minutes, maybe. You know what? It didn't even take 3 minutes. It was the time that I used to make that sauce, so I don't know, a minute and a half. It's time to strain our noodles. Make sure that anytime that you pour hot boiling water down the drain, make sure that you're running cold water at full blast, because otherwise you're gonna like burn the, I don't know, gaskets, I don't know, whatever you call it, the stuff that makes the inside of the sink. Just don't burn the sink, okay? Just run your cold water. Now you can absolutely run some cold water over these noodles so that they won't overcook. I'm not going to do that because they're already by design slightly undercooked, and my wok is hot and it's ready to go. I feel like Weird Al should make a parody of The Block is Hot, like the wok is hot, the wok is hot. Okay, I'm just going to spray some vegetable oil here. Now with this dish, really got to have all your shit ready to go because it moves fast. So let's go. I don't know how much garlic you like. I like a lot. So garlic. I'm gonna go in with some ginger. Okay, I'm gonna put my onions and my carrots in at the same time. This needs about a minute, maybe a minute and a half. We're on medium heat right now. I am stirring it up, but I'm taking this minute and a half just to put away the ingredients that I needed for my sauce. We don't need them on the counter anymore. We're going to clean as we go. We just took a minute and a half. Let's toss in our other vegetables. This is going to take maybe 40 seconds. Okay, I put a very light sprinkle of salt on these vegetables as they cook. Very little salt. It is best to salt each layer. It's going to make it taste the best. But if you're not as familiar with cooking, especially if it's something you've never cooked before, or you're just not familiar with cooking, period, look, it's better to undersalt, and then you can salt when you're going to eat it to taste. Taste is important, but your arteries and your blood pressure are more important, okay? So we have a lot of ingredients in here now, so I'm bumping the heat up to medium-high. Let's toss in our noodles. Okay, now that I've mixed the noodles in, let's pour in our sauce and mix that in. Now, you see my container? I'm just going to add about half a cup of water to that and then dump that in. Try to use your spoon and swirl it to just get the last little bits of sugar and cornstarch or whatever out of that container. So you'll just mix this up. One of the things that's going to taste different to you if you're used to eating Chinese food, American style, from takeout restaurants, is you're going to notice it doesn't taste as sweet. They use a lot of sugar in it. So feel free to add a little bit more sugar at this point if you need to. It'll help it melt. But, you know, you really got to try to readjust your palate to not eat that much sugar and salt. So this is done. We now have, so really in theory this should be 4 servings, but it's not going to be. It's lunch for Eric and myself once, and then he likes to eat a little bit more. He does expend a lot of calories. He is a very tall and big person. So the second lunch will be his, and then I'm already going out to lunch with my boss and some clients tomorrow, so I don't need to worry about my lunch for tomorrow. So that's our lo mein. We are making fortune cookies. The reason that you should make fortune cookies is that, number one, they're really cheap, they're really easy, and also you can put any message that you want in there. So if you're like a passive aggressive person, there you go. And I like to do it because, like, anytime you have a team of employees, you can get a message to them. So let's say that you need to motivate your team. You know, we're in a brand new year. This is a great time to say, hey, the new year is going to bring a lot of professional success to you. Um, if you have had an employee that had a recent loss in their family, like a death, family friend, maybe a pet, you could put someone is looking down from heaven and smiling on you. Or um, just some words of encouragement. Religious people love to hear about how their harvest is coming soon, and or like a Bible verse quote. I don't know. I'm just telling you, like, you can, as you are dividing them up, you can kind of sort them in a way that only you know what message you wrote in the cookie. And that way they're going to feel like, oh, this is, this was for me. And I've had employees who kept their fortune in a fortune cookie that I made for them for years. I was like, it's just me. All right, so in here we have 1 egg white. To that, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of sugar. Next, I'm adding in about 2.5 teaspoons of half and half. You could also just use milk as long as it's full fat milk. Let's add our extract. So I'm just going to use, just a small drop of vanilla, a small drop of almond, and then this is optional. I ordered this online, so if you can't find it, don't worry about it. You don't need it, but it is nice. Just a small drop of butter extract. Okay, next I'm just going to add a pinch of salt. Salt helps sweet things taste sweeter. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to add a tablespoon of butter that was melted in the microwave and then cooled. That is it for our wet ingredients. And now for our dry, I'm going to add 1/3 cup of flour. Now I'm using cake flour. I just like the way I just like the texture that it gives to these cookies. But if you don't already have cake flour and you don't have any other typical use for it, don't go buy cake flour. Just use regular all-purpose flour. I have had people ask me why I keep my flour in the original container like that and why I don't use an airtight container. I will tell you why. It's because I go through so much flour. I do so much cooking that it almost just doesn't even make any sense to do. The benefit to using airtight containers is that the flour will stay fresh longer, and I don't have that problem. So if somebody else doesn't cook quite as often as I do, they're really welcome to, use an airtight container, or I don't know, maybe their house got roaches or something like that. Yeah, I guess you might want to consider using airtight containers, but I don't have that problem. So everything just stays in its original container. When I buy cake flour like this, it's typically gone in 2 or 3 days. So you'll just want to mix this batter really, really well. You want to get all the lumps out of it. You can use a whisk. I'm not using a whisk right now, though. I'm breaking that out. Get the lumps out of it, and it's going to need, once you have it nice and smooth, it's going to need to sit and set for about, 10 minutes. Meanwhile, we have preheated our oven to 350. So our batter has been setting up for our cookies while we made the lo mein. And it does need time, just like pancake batter or crepe batter, to set up. This is going to make about 10 cookies. So what we'll do now is on parchment paper, on a cookie sheet, we're going to put a real thin layer of the batter. I'll show you. So what I did was I used the back of my spoon to just smooth this into more or less a circle. And this is going to go into the oven. They need about 10 minutes. That's enough for you to start to see the edges start to turn brown. Now, why I'm only making 2 is that these have to be shaped by hand. And they're really hot and they cool quickly because they're so thin. So I only really have time to shape 2 to 4 cookies. So I'm just going with 2 right now. All right, I gotta knock some dishes out of the way before I start to get ready for work. This is how I spend my morning. I'm cooking meals for both of us, home-cooked, healthy meals. I took both of the dogs for a good run. I'm making sure that there are no dishes left behind for my man to clean up. The house is going to be clean and spotless, every surface wiped down. Now, I also have to go to work. So This is why I don't pay any bills in the house, because not only am I able to manage a full-time job, um, but I also manage all of the home skills. And there are some men who say they want a woman who will pay bills, but also do all of the things, for example, like that I do. And it's just not going to happen. I'm telling you this in love. I'm not telling you this to be mean. I'm telling you in love. Um, there is no woman who is going to want to do the laborious tasks that I do and maintain a home to the level that I maintain it, as well as clean. Don't even think about children. I don't even have small children anymore. My kids are well grown. My kids are probably older than you. But just don't even think about children. All the things that I do, and that's not, I don't pay bills. I contribute in other ways, sometimes financially. Um, there are times we've gone out to dinner and I've paid, but I'm not paying bills. Why would I do that? Why would I do all of the it's almost another full-time job that I do, the things that are in the house. And for people who say, "Oh, what about that lady, that, platinum blonde lady who wears those 1950s outfits and has a YouTube channel?" Yeah, that is her job. She's making full-time income from her domestic trad wife videos. So you're crazy if you think that she is um, you know, not making money off of that. That is her job. And that she's very smart, by the way, to do that. I'm not putting her down. But I'm just saying, if your woman is not going to be able to make a living off of that, and it won't work. If everybody does it, it's just like casinos, one casino in an area can make money, but if the area is saturated, no casino will make money, right? It's the same like that with those trad wife channels. So she's making her money, and she would not be able to do the things that she does if she had to leave the house and go work a 9 to 5 kind of a job. And if she did, she's just not going to chip in half of the costs of the household. Why would she do that? That would be insane. And I'm not putting you down. If there's a man listening to this, I'm sure you're a lovely person. It's not about you. Who in their right mind would choose a situation where they have financially, it's kind of like a roommate setup where they have to pay half of the bills, but then unlike a roommate situation where everybody's expected to keep their shit together, keep their stuff clean. No, instead, they take on the majority or all of the household duties and the cooking. Who would do that? Who cooks all their meals for their roommate? Who cleans up and does their roommate's laundry? And yet both of them split the bills 50-50. It just doesn't happen. I'm not trying to be mean. Be realistic. And you can't be bitter about these things. Eric never has to worry about his laundry. His clothes are washed, dried, folded, and even his underwear and his socks are neatly folded. There's nothing that he has to think about when he walks into this door. Nothing. But that's because I'm not paying a damn thing. If I am in a situation where I have to start to pay, then our situation will be reevaluated, right? And there are many ways to be happy and to live as a couple. I know that there are some YouTubers who say, women shouldn't pay anything. In my experience, those people are coming from past victimhood or situations where they allow themselves to get taken advantage of. And the reality is, and I'm not saying they're wrong, maybe a lot of people maybe need to hear that. But I think there are a lot of setups that can work for couples. You can absolutely have a situation where you split the bills. You can have a situation where maybe the man pays 75 and the woman pays 25. I know couples where the woman pays almost everything and the man is the one who stays at home with the children. But you know what? They're happy only because that man is the better cook, he's the better cleaner, he's the better caretaker. Okay, so our cookies are just about to come out of the oven in less than 1 minute. This batter, it needs to be not too thick, not too thin. It takes a little while to get a feel for it. You might need to make it a few times before you feel like you've perfected it. And it goes so fast when it comes out of the oven that I don't really think I'll be able to show this. So the way that you shape the cookie is that you're going to fold it in half, fold the circle in half like you're making a half moon. And then for those tips of the moon, you're going to pull them down toward each other. This is another thing that makes it almost impossible to cook more than 2 at a time, is that you kind of have to hold it and shape it in place as it dries. And don't forget to add your fortune in it. I'm not adding fortunes to these. I'm just making almond flavored cookies. This I'm going to serve with ice cream and vanilla ice cream. A good rule of thumb when you're considering a dessert or a sweet after a meal, you can go with richer desserts if your main meal was lighter and healthier. If you had a meal that was richer or heavier, think manicotti or something like that. If you had like baked ziti, something that had like a lot of fat, calories in it, heavier pasta dishes, then go for something light like a sorbet or angel food cake. I don't know, something like that. But this is kind of, our meal today is kind of like in the middle. So a scoop of vanilla ice cream and a couple of almond cookies will be perfect. So I can only make 2 at a time. Like I said, these cookies are so unbelievably delicious. Eating a fresh fortune cookie that has a really cool texture of being soft in some parts and then the edges are crispy and crunchy. It's so buttery and rich, and you'll never be able to eat a store-bought like the Chinese restaurant cookie ever again, because it'll just taste like such a cheap imitation, a cartoon version of something that is really, truly delicious. I encourage you to try to make these on your own. They do take a little while, a little practice, and they are a little bit annoying. It's not something that I want to make all the time because, like I said, it takes a minute to kind of shape them. And then by that time, like you can only make 2 at a time. So it's not the most kitchen efficient thing to do. If you're by yourself, if you have more people, you can make more at a time. But it's just something, it's nice to know how to do it. If you don't make that though, I would still encourage you to make egg rolls for yourself and make learn how to make different fried rice and noodle dishes. Learn how to make various Chinese food at home. It's so easy. You can make it way better than the Chinese restaurant. Nothing against them. It's just like I said, they have such thin profit margins that and they got to make their money too. So you're not getting the best out of them.